But I think a lot of business people, we're intellectually stimulated to want more, or to want to grow our idea of how much we have or our net worth. These kinds of terms can be very misleading. And it can put people on a chase where you're trying to become more from a place of like basically scarcity sometimes, right? More is going to be better, and it doesn't always work that way.
Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast. I am your host, as usual, Michael Hickman, founder of paintergrowth.com. And today I have a longtime friend of mine. I have known Brad Samuels for going on 12 years when we were little kids running around neighborhoods, painting houses. And now we're on our own journeys. Brad has been on a wonderful journey, been following him along, building up color craft painting, embracing spirituality, embracing psychedelics, using his business as a passive income vehicle to live the life that he wants. And Brad, stoked to chat with you today.
I am stoked to be here, buddy.
What an intro, hey?
what an intro. Met you running around painting houses when we were kids.
Yeah. So let's talk about the origin story, man. How'd you get into painting, and how did you eventually decide to stay in painting and make it a passive income vehicle?
Well, I was in business. I got recruited just the same as you. When we were kids, we got recruited into the student painting world, which is essentially a business training for kids, for students model. It's using the vehicle of painting as a way to teach business skills. And I got recruited.
Did Danny recruit you?
I got recruited by Igor, or Sandra. Her name was Sandra.
Sandra. Okay. Yeah, I got recruited by Danny.
And then Igor became my coach later. And
nice.
James was the first person who interviewed me.
Yep. And anyone who knows BTA, these names should ring a bell.
Yeah. James and Igor are founders of BTA.
Danny.
But Danny didn't interview me.
No. Danny and Igor. Yeah. Anyway, all good. So let's keep rolling.
I started in university. I was in finance. That was my background. And then to pay for school, I got recruited into this opportunity that could help pay for school. And being in business school, learning business through this vehicle was a great opportunity. And we had a really good community. I think I learned like the basics of franchising to that point, which is like community, which is what you're doing here, Mike. Community, how valuable that is, having a process and a system to follow, and having a coach. These are like three pillars that make franchising work, or what you're doing even right now: a system, a coach, and a community.
Yeah, it's cool how impactful those student painting. The painting industry kind of looks down on student painting because it's like, oh, you're getting kids into painting, but really it's a development vehicle to teach kids business, and it brings a lot of great talent into the painting world that who otherwise would never have been in the painting world.
Yeah, exactly. But over the years, like, it's such a simple business. It doesn't change. That's one of the things that's interesting about painting is like, once you know the fundamentals, like it's really not going to get disrupted too much, even with AI and all sorts of stuff. Like it's going to be pretty much the same in about 10 years on a holistic overview.
Yeah. Software changes, products change, but like, that's about it.
That's about it, right? It's like one of the least complicated things. So all you can really do is focus on the fundamentals, and that's all you really need to do, to be honest, because it's a high gross margin, gross profit business. And if you're wise with money, that's how it went for me, is that I just started because I was paying royalties when I was a franchisee for such a long time. Once I stopped having to pay royalties, I just kept on taking royalties from myself and started to buy investments and assets and other passive vehicles, dividend stocks, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So you run a painting business, but I don't feel like you would classify yourself as a painter.
I am not a painter. Although I bet you I could paint a house pretty good.
Yeah, probably. But I bet you could train people to paint a house a little better.
Yeah. I mean, I used to paint when I was, I guess 2011 and 2012. I painted for a couple seasons.
Okay.
Or maybe 2010 actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you learned business, specifically the painting business, going
Yeah.
through student painting group, College Pro, which was great. I was there too with you, different
Yeah.
province, and then you decide once you kind of finished your tenure with College Pro, you decided to stay in the painting industry and you started your own thing. Tell me about
Well,
that.
actually, no, that's not. I finished with painting and I left and I went and started another home service company called Shack Shine, which is now a 30 million, $40 million house detailing company.
Hmm.
So I was the first investor and franchisee in that company. I bought up all the original franchises like for nothing because there was nothing basically. And that's when I learned how to build systems. And I worked with Igor and helped him and as he was developing the operations manual. So
Yeah, you got to work with pretty high level people doing that.
yeah, and we needed to test everything before you can set it in stone as an SOP, right? So you got to test it, make sure it's the correct SOP for your V1 operations manual, and then it becomes a working, ongoing process forever. Really,
Yeah.
what are the best SOPs for the industry? But we built Shack Shine. I did that for like 4 or 5 years, and then we got bought out by a larger company. And then I basically cashed out and kind of decided to like it's like a mini retirement, I guess, for the Tim Ferriss fans. And I just went rock climbing for several years, for like at least a year, not several years, sorry, several months, for almost a year. And I got, yeah, I lived that dream out. And then I realized that I missed building things.
So you live in Squamish, right?
I live in Squamish.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
anyone who doesn't know, Squamish is one of the most beautiful cities in North America. This
Yeah.
chief, just always the ever-present mountain overshadowing the whole hamlet.
Yeah.
I
A
love the chief.
rock climber's paradise. It's good.
Yeah, I love the power that the chief just like holds when you're in Squamish. Just like it's everywhere. You always see it no matter where you are, and it's just so big, so powerful.
Yeah,
So
man.
so that's great. So you got bored rock climbing, living like the life that when you were a kid, you were like, I wish I could just rock climb all day and not have to worry about money. You got to that point, you sold some businesses, sold some franchises. Now you're rock climbing all day. You don't have to worry about money. Why wasn't it all that you thought it would be cracked up to be?
Honestly, I just missed business. I like it, right? Like I like, once you start like I like investing. I like business. My background's finance, so I think once you get a little more comfortable in whatever the hell your industry is, eventually you need to learn how to allocate money because if you're profitable at your painting business, for anyone who's a painter watching this, if I had to give you the whole finance equation, it's where does money come from, and then once you have money, where do you put money? That's pretty much finance in a nutshell, and
So
that's
you
I
get
like
money
doing
from the
that.
value equation, right? Providing more value than you ask.
Yeah,
And that's where like gross profit comes from. I don't
yeah,
know if I did that exactly right. And then it's like, okay, gross profit, you pay off your bills, you pay off your painters, you pay off your gasoline, your insurance, your other things there. Now you have net profit.
yeah.
You pay your salary out of your net profit, and then whatever you have left over. Now
That's
it's
your
like,
that's your retained earnings, and the
yeah,
retained earnings, you either have to reinvest it effectively within your own company, and if you don't have anywhere to put the money, you have to allocate it elsewhere and buy other things.
some people just sit on that money, right? It's comforting to grow that nest egg, but beyond a certain amount, it does become counterproductive.
Yeah, I mean, especially right now in the last 2 years, because you see it getting eaten by inflation. So eventually, I had to like really start studying and understanding how to assess, how to read balance sheets, how to read income statements, so that I could buy other companies who knew how to grow money, right? So
Mhm.
then and I'm interested in doing that stuff. So, but that's essentially what happens. You either have to you let it sit in cash and you everything you just earned slowly dissolves away. If you do that for a whole lifetime,
Mhm.
maybe a year here and there, that's fine if that's the right play, but that's not a good lifetime strategy.
Yeah, you need your money to be making money. That's why they say you need money to make money. Well, that's partly true. Or it takes money to what is it? Takes money to make money? How does it
Takes
go?
that's the myth that it takes
Yeah.
money to make money.
Yeah, but you need your money to make money for you, or else it's gonna wither away through inflation.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inflation and fees.
You got to be smart, I think,
Yeah.
at some level. So
So you've been rock climbing for, whatever, however many months, and you're like, let's get back into the game. So
I
what
went to go I went to go see Grant Cardone.
okay, which is like exactly on the same level as you, right?
Yeah, right. No, I went to his conference and then I got stoked and then COVID hit and I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything. I'll just start something else.
Okay. So you started what is now Colorcraft.
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you learn in Shackshine about systems and processes that made it a lot easier to go into? And so just for those listening in, Colorcraft is Brad's franchise, painting franchise that he started. And now you have 5 operators, 6 operators?
No, we have 4.
4 operators. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have 4 operators, but but systems are obviously super important in order to get to that point. So what happened? What did you learn from Shackshine that allowed you to kind of step into that more easily?
I think it's just to think thoroughly through what the best systems are for each part and then trust them. And like that's kind of it. It's like trust once you've decided on something, just let this rest in that. So it's like this is just how we do things, right? Like and then being open to suggestions for adjustments to the systems, but it's like it makes it less like about what I feel and this and that. It's just like this is how this is done. And then you can hold people accountable to that system. Um that's what I like about it. It's like
Okay.
this is the operating procedure for this area. There's a write-up about it, and in some cases there's a video about it, and it leverages my time so that I'm not and I'm giving everyone the same information, right? If I hire someone, I'm not giving this person different information than this one. It's just the system's always the same. So there's less communication errors.
So what was the mindset and strategy that you had when you went into starting up Colorcraft?
The first things I did, the mindset was just like I need to the first mindset was like this is a simple business. There's not much to it. So to systemize it and operationalize it in that way is not like very difficult. So actually the very first thing I did when I started the company was just write all the employment agreements. These are all the rules, and then I just filled those rules.
Because you approach the business not from a like most people when they start a painting company, they bootstrap it, right? You paint by
I
yourself
didn't Yeah, I
until
didn't
you
do
have
that.
money, and then you hire a painter, and then you hire a couple of painters, and you're still working all the time. You didn't bootstrap it. You started with a team.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't bootstrap, but there's not much overhead though, right? Like
Mhm.
even I mean, I did kind of have a little bit more overhead. I went and the other thing I did right away is I went and bought a Sprinter van and did all the branding immediately. Because I wanted to be excited about what I'm doing. Like the biggest asset when you're starting is that you're stoked. So I needed
Mhm.
something that I would feel really good about. So I bought like a $60,000 Sprinter and then did a photo shoot with my brother, put a really cute girl on the side with me, and we wrapped the vehicles, and then it felt legitimate and cool. Build a cool
And
brand.
and it looked legitimate too.
And it looked legitimate right away. So people think that you've been in business for a long time. We did the website really nice right away. And then it just feels good. And
Yeah.
when you feel good, you work harder and you're proud of it, I
Yeah,
guess.
so you obviously didn't. I don't imagine that you bought the Sprinter van cash. You financed it,
Yeah. I mean,
right?
I put something down, then you
Yeah.
finance it. It's fine.
So just running the economics here. So you put 20,000 down, plus maybe put 5 grand into a website and your branding and your photo shoot. So you're maybe 30,000 in,
Yeah.
plus your some hires that you maybe float for a month.
Yeah.
But all in probably less than like 80,000.
Less, probably 50, 60.
Yeah,
So you're more like 60K, 40 upfront cost. And I borrowed I had money and I still borrowed the money.
yeah.
So you just leverage the whole thing. And then you have about 20K of net working capital, just cash in your bank account. And then one thing that's really nice about painting is that like if you buy a really nice Sprinter like I did, one van can service like 5 crews. So that's like 15 employees for one Sprinter van. So if you divide it out, you can actually like see the overhead per employee. Whereas with my old business, like one van, so we had Sprinter vans as well, one van for 2 cleaning technicians because it was a cleaning company. So if you want to hire 2 new people, you have to buy another van.
Yeah.
Painting's not like that because we don't need the van to sit in front of the driveway the whole time for like a week.
Yeah.
It just has
Exactly.
to move stuff away, and that's if you're using an employee model.
Yeah, I like thinking about that way. I mean, overhead per employee, it makes it a lot more digestible.
overhead per employee. Like it can be a good number to look at.
Like, think about that feeling, like pulling up in a brand new Sprinter van with a fresh wrap. You got your branded clothing. You pull up to the homeowner's house. You got your branded clipboard and collared shirt with the logo on it.
Yeah.
Versus like pulling up in an old jalopy rusted out Astro van with a magnet sign and a ladder half hanging off, like, but painter whites that you've been wearing for 6 months. It's just completely different
It's
mindset.
just different. It just
It's
feels different.
it's just different for everyone, for the homeowner too. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a professional organization, and I trust them because they look clean, so they're gonna treat my home cleanly.
Well, and you charge more. I'm the most
True.
expensive.
Yeah, and you charge more.
I'm the most expensive, so I bid the highest, which means I earn the most. I can pay the guys the more.
Yeah, so you invested in looking really professional. You got all that set up, plus your team, which was not all upfront, which is over time. But I think the reason why you were able to do this so confidently is because you knew how to get work. You knew that the contracts would come, and you weren't like hoping, right? You had systems in place to get work on demand.
I live in Vancouver, so yeah, the people, there's money, and then you just hire professional. So put your whole sales pitch at that point is we hire professional painters. So you can afford to hire professional painters, not amateur painters.
Yep. And I mean, I
You're,
know
yeah.
painters in Vancouver that can't find work, right? So just because there's money there doesn't automatically mean that you know how to find work. So what were the strategies that you initially utilized to get work that you knew were going to work?
The most tried and true, and for anyone starting, is just door to door. The numbers they add up easily. It's been the same basically for over a decade, as far as I can see. Like one person knocks on like 30, 40 doors an hour. They'll talk to about 10 people. They'll book one estimate. That's it. That's pretty
Yeah.
much the thing. So if you need 20 estimates, then you just do the math and divide it out.
And that's funny how people would rather do Facebook ads and spend 10 times as much on leads versus just doing that.
Yeah, people are lazy though. We're all lazy, like everybody, including me.
Well, humans are naturally lazy. If we weren't lazy, we would never have created the remote control for your TV, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I mean, even when I was running Shack Shine, it took me 2 years to get the conversions to anywhere that's even reasonable at all with my online stuff. I never got it close to my door-to-door effort. But Facebook is more, and Google are more scalable. That's the other side. They can be.
Are they?
I don't know.
That's arguable, right? Like
It is arguable. You could just be a master of managing door-to-door teams as well. That's another way to go.
Motivating them, keeping them, accountable, having metrics. Like you could easily track all of that. Did you ever use Strava, the fitness app, to track your team?
No, I never did.
No, that's one thing we recommend. Yeah, that's one thing we recommend is like, then if you ever have a question about accountability, you got hours, you got location, you got start time, you got end time, all in a screenshot.
Damn, that's actually, maybe I'll look into it next year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But it works and it'll keep working.
Yeah. But you can scale it up, right? You can have your marketing team on your soldiers, and then you can have a supervisor or 2 or 3. Like you can scale it up just like any organization. And if the metrics make sense, it's actually funny how much you can afford to pay per lead in this model, how much these marketers can make going door to door.
Dude, marketers make the most actually out of anyone. A good marketer makes more per hour than almost everyone else in the painting company.
Yep.
Because they're making $100 plus an hour if they're a good marketer.
Yeah, two estimates an hour, easily $100. Yeah, the economics definitely work. So you knew that your door to door is going to work as the initial strategy. Of course, you're doing other things as well. You're doing SEO, you're doing Google ads, you're doing Facebook ads. You know it all.
Well, you got branded people, like uniform staff. You've got Sprinter vans with their fully wrapped vehicle. You've got door hangers, flyers going out. You've got the cold calling teams going out. That's the marketing mix, the very simple marketing mix. You got a professional website that's on brand. Everything cohesively matches itself.
Yeah.
And and like you said, the one tactic alone without anything else is going to work for sure.
Yeah. How was that first year in business?
Expensive. Because I was so focused on writing systems. So I was very non-operationally oriented. I was like, I'm writing the operations manual. I wrote like a 650-page operations manual in year one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that outlined how to do everything in your business.
Everything. So there's a playbook for sales, there's a playbook for marketing, there's a playbook for financials and bookkeeping, how we do our charts of account. There's a playbook for operations, there's a playbook for recruitment.
Would you say that your team is pretty good at following the playbook?
Sometimes. I mean, it depends. That's part of the challenge, but yeah, it comes down to the owner, like them sticking to it.
Why did you feel that spending so much time writing this 650-page operations manual was more important than operating a more profitable business year one?
Because I don't care. I didn't care about year one profits. I was like, if it's going to go into a franchise and have like 10, 20 franchises, the sooner I have a playbook for everything to be able to scale in that way. And then as well, writing the business plan, like the actual Excel system, like our whole business planning tracking system, that took me a long time as well. And like a really good job cost card tracking system. And payroll systems, like just doing all that properly is like, I was just like, what will this look like if there's other managers? And say I'm going to have like 5 to 10 people, like franchisees I coach. I want to be able to coach each of them in 1 hour and everything else is just done for them.
Yeah. So you went in, this is an important point, I think. You went into your business with a specific goal in mind. So you had a vision, you had like a 5-year vision, and you made decisions based on that vision. Because if you just went in to open your business to make as much money as you could, to grow your business, as quickly as you could, you'd have probably been like balls to the wall all year, producing work as hard as you could, right? You probably would have done twice as much production, but you chose
In
not
year
to.
one, in year one, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In year one. But you said, I want to franchise this thing. So what's more important right now? A little bit more production or creating the system that I need to hit this vision?
Yes. So it's the implementation. So my implementations in year one were very low on the operational front. It was more like by the end of this year, all the employment agreements are like dialed. The business plans has been dialed. Our CRM system is set up properly. Those were the implementations. It wasn't like so much we need to hit this revenue and get this
Yeah.
profit. I think my goal in year one was negative $10,000 profit. That was my goal.
That's the definition of reinvesting everything back into the business.
Yeah. And then today we're profitable and the net profits get reinvested in other assets outside of the painting business.
Okay. That's awesome. So you get through year one, you're net negative, but you have all of these systems built, right? You have your branding, you have
Yeah.
jobs, cruising. Tell me about the
Oh, go
next
ahead.
few years. How did you find operators and how did you choose locations? Basically, how did you turn one location into a franchise with multiple locations?
Well, to be honest, the first location was Vancouver and I was living in Vancouver. And
Yeah,
then
this is yours.
I moved to Squamish.
Okay.
So then Vancouver, I spent like whatever 18 months developing that franchise. So there was already like brand awareness. There was already a Google review account with some good stuff in there. And then I just and it was through friends to start so far. And that's where we are. The company's we're year 4 right now.
Yeah.
So this started in COVID. 2020 is when I like first sat down and COVID had just started and I got home from climbing and I was like, oh, like I got to stay home. That's when it started. It's pretty new,
Yeah.
relatively.
So that's like March or April 2020. And you're like, let's get it started. So then you move to Squamish and you're like, let's build territory number 2 in Squamish.
Exactly. And then Jesse, who you know, was like, hey, let's do another one in Surrey. And I was like, sure, here's the entire system. Go run with it. And then last year I had the franchise agreement drafted, which was a process because takes a long time to write those. So now I'd say the company is franchise ready is where we're at. I've tested a couple of franchises, tested the models. It's franchise ready. And now I'm in the stage where it's like, do I want to scale this? And I actually don't know for sure.
Yeah,
I could just keep it as a small $1 million in a bit business, or I could scale, and I'm franchise ready to do so with a franchise agreements and a full operations manual ready to go. And I tend to work that way. It's like I feel into things as
yeah,
I've gotten older. What feels good in that's what I believe it's really about. Is you have to feel good about your life.
totally. Yeah, you have to really believe in what you're doing and know it's for the best. So, I mean, I have a suggestion. Maybe you've thought of it, maybe you haven't. But like, what if with this franchising aspect of it, what if you go find and hire just like an experienced CEO
Could.
to start
Yep.
running it, and then you just act as the advisor. You have the profits coming in, invest $150,000-$200,000 a year in a CEO.
I totally could go that way. Yeah, these are all lots of options. I'm in a place in my life now where there's a lot of options,
Yeah.
which actually I'm learning is can be a little bit stressful.
Have you talked to John Evans at all?
I have not.
You should, because he's, as uh, Everline, right? They've
Mm.
gone from, I think they were at 16 locations last year, and now they're at 96 locations this year. So they
Everline
went,
Coatings.
yeah, they went full speed ahead. John's college pro guy, and so they're at like, yeah, almost 100 locations in less than whatever couple years expanding. So I'm sure he could give you the pros and the cons of expanding franchises like that. Like I've talked to him a few times about it, and like it's full on.
It's full on, and I think that's part of where I'm at in my life too. Am I ready for that next stage?
Yeah.
Um, we talked about it a little bit, but like I've used this period of my life, getting the freedom I had to really start exploring the world and
Mm-hmm.
exploring other parts of myself outside of business. I have another company which is called Foundations, where we do a lot of ceremonial work and retreats all over the place and around the world. And that's been a big part of my journey too, is like just discovering what do I really want to do. And
Yeah.
painting's always been this beautiful backbone, like because it's so simple. It's
Yeah.
so like dependable. It's basically super dependable.
And then I guess the decision for your life now, and it doesn't have to be a dichotomy like one or the other.
It's
It's like,
not.
do you want to grow and continue following your spiritual journey or the financial journey?
Both. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not independent of each other, right? Like, if I've learned anything from the spiritual journey is that it's one big world. It's one thing. So it's really about what do you get, what drives joy for you? What are you really excited about? What do you love? And being able to connect to that on an emotional level, not just intellectualize the whole thing. Because especially for myself, but I think a lot of business people, we're intellectually stimulated to want more or to want to grow our idea of how much we have or our net worth. These kinds of terms can be very misleading, and it can put people on a chase where um you're trying to become more from a place of like basically scarcity sometimes, right? More is going to be better, and it doesn't always work that way,
You got
right?
to find what's comfortable for you and the life that you want to create for yourself.
Yeah, and you need space to do it. And that is a big theme that happened a few years ago is like I really started creating space in my life where it wasn't just hit a goal and then the next goal will take me and so on and so forth. I had to really make space to like stop doing things. Because as an action oriented person, there's always this inclination. I got to take action again, take action again. And I never would create space to actually like feel into what I want or what I'm actually struggling with.
Mm-hmm. And that means that you have to say no.
You have to say no, and you need to take space. And if you're a painting guy, if you this is a painting podcast, one of the things you have as a painter is you can make all your money in about 7 to 8 months, and then you can take some serious space to do deep personal work or just go travel or do whatever you want. And I've been doing that for over a decade. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
leaving. I was telling you earlier, but I'm leaving for Nepal for 2 months in a week with
I mean,
just to go trek and do
yeah.
mountaineering work and do personal work.
It's a crazy fortunate, position to be able to, have yourself set up, your personal life, your financial life, really your family life, everything set up so that you can actually go do that. Like that sounds like a great adventure. Be unforgettable.
and it's doable.
Yeah.
We can do that, right?
Yeah. You can do that as a painter, which is crazy, right? As a painting contractor, someone who owns a painting business, you can take this type of leave. But it's so foreign to most people who are just so stuck in the grind, stuck in the day-to-day, not thinking systems orientation.
Yeah, systems orientation helps.
Yeah. So let's just speak on that to the people listening who are stuck in that. Maybe they're feeling demotivated. Maybe they're like, "Damn, this guy's not like me. I can't do this." As someone, coming from the painting world, how would you recommend someone take some steps towards putting their business into a place that they can eventually strive to, a life like that?
One system at a time. Like you build, like right now, I'm literally before this call building out a system to do fundamental analysis on stocks where I can just input numbers and it'll give me the correct purchase value. So that takes me like it's taking me 20 hours to make this one system, but it'll save me so much time on buying stocks for the rest of my life. So that's one system for financials. Like become a systems builder and just learn how to enjoy the process of building systems one at a time.
I think the hard thing that people struggle with, I struggle with it for sure, is like, oh, it's just easier for me to do it than create a system and teach someone else to do it. Right? It'll just take me a minute. Like it won't take me long. I'll just go pick up the check. And it's easy for me to do it. I like doing it too. But like it's that mindset of like, oh, I can actually do it. Well, you should get someone else to do it. You shouldn't be doing any of that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the system is the thing that'll prevent you from being allowed to do it even. You're not allowed. Like when I wrote employment agreements, I also wrote an employment agreement for myself. What's my job? My job is actually building systems. If you're the CEO of your business, your job is to build the business. So it's not in your accountabilities and deliverables to do various things. Like if it's not in your role, then it's not your job, basically.
Yeah. You have to develop systems and develop people to be able to get a business that serves you.
Yeah, and that'll all just be listed out in their employment agreements. This
Yeah.
is what you're responsible for delivering. Here's the accountabilities that'll help you achieve these deliverables, and then you just manage and coach based on that.
Yeah. And scorecards are so important.
Yeah.
I had a client a couple of weeks ago or a couple months ago on a call, and they were saying their painters keep leaving touch-ups. And so he's running around doing touch-ups for his painters all the time before he can close out the job. And he's like, oh, should I just hire someone, a full-time person, to be the touch-up guy? I'm
No.
like, absolutely not. You should teach your painters to do their job because they're slacking and you're giving them grace and you're giving them the permission to not finish their job by doing this for them. You're holding their hands.
Yeah, and the job's not closed, so they can't actually move on to the next job. And in the short term, I see why people do it because I used to do it too. When I was younger, I'd do that as well. I'd go maybe do the touch-ups, but now I'll just be like, let me know when the job's done. And then they'll go waste time doing all of that. It affects the productivity rate, and then we'll have a coaching call based on productivity.
Yeah.
So say the house is budgeted for 100 hours, they finish it in 90 hours, and then they had 20 hours of touch-ups. It's fine. Okay, well then now you guys are over budget by 10%. So
yeah,
what
and
happens?
also you've wasted 2 days by not being able to go to the next project.
Yeah. So, but you have to let that pain be felt by the people, not like you're basically robbing them from the lesson if you go and do the touch-ups.
Yeah, it might feel like the path of least resistance, but it's long term, even medium term, it's going to be a lot more resistance to go that route.
Yeah, and that's if you have internal painters. Like the other example would be for anyone if you're using subcontractors, which I've learned how to use that model as well. They both work, but subcontracting is very simple because they just invoice you when the job's done. That's it. So if they're like, oh yeah, I sent you the invoice, it's like awesome. As soon as the job's done, I'll pay it. That's it.
Yep.
Like it's simple. Then they'll go finish it. Like, oh yeah, there's a few touch-ups. Go take care of it. Just let me know when you're done.
Yeah. So how did what types of responsibilities do you have your painters do versus foreman versus production manager? Like if you start at just the painter level, above and beyond just painting, what other responsibilities do you have your painters do?
painters, really the responsibility is just productivity and quality. Like, so they have to know how to do there's actually like the skills of painting. That's pretty much it though, is how do you, and then a little bit around job planning. How do you make a job plan? But that's all worked with the job site manager. It's mostly the job site manager who's responsible for, yeah. And job site planning is really just part of productivity. You're responsible for productivity and quality.
And then what does a job site manager do above and beyond painting?
Nothing. They manage profitable jobs.
Do they pick up the check?
Yep.
Do they do the walk
Yep.
around?
Yep.
Google review.
Inspection, walk around, Google review. And if you get the Google reviews, there's a bonus. Everyone gets a bonus. And there's a little one-page SOP asking for the review.
Yeah. And is that pretty adhered to?
I mean, yes, it is, because they do get a good bonus. It's like, I think it's $250 bonus per Google review.
Wow. That's generous.
It's generous. So it makes it worthwhile to want it, right?
Yeah.
You'll do same with subcontractors, same deal. It's almost identical. Everything's identical, actually. The SOPs don't change between subcontractors or painters. The only difference is the invoicing system.
Yeah, I was speaking to a new friend of mine who runs a $8 million a year painting business down south in the States, and she runs fully subcontractor model, but treats her subs like members of her family, like her team. And it's not necessarily the homeowner's business to know what type of government relationship you have with your painters. Right.
No, it
It's
doesn't
all it
matter.
is. Yeah. It's like you're responsible for the
It's just your
people.
team. It's just your team.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Like, sometimes I've had painters work on, like, I don't do it very often anymore, but like, I've had subcontractor who wants to get paid an hourly thing. I don't really do this anymore, but subcontractors who work with my painters. They're working on the same job together, except one's on payroll, one invoices at the end of the job based on their hours.
Yeah.
So it's just your team. It's not like, hey, this is my painting team and this guy's a sub to the customer. They're not gonna. Doesn't matter.
No, at
It's
the end
just
of the day, they're buying a paint job from you, and you're going to deliver on it in the best way you know how.
Yeah, and it's just people, a bunch of people.
Yeah. So when it comes to doing like what's like following, being motivated for something, following your heart, doing the best that you can for the world, do you feel like you growing your painting business is fundamentally better for the country, better for the painting community than you not growing your painting business and leaving the industry as is?
I don't think I feel like particularly with my painting business, I don't think I feel a particular, like, I'm really making a big difference in that way. I know that from just feedback, I know that me being in the industry definitely helps professionalize things. It's part of the reason why subcontractors like to work with me, because of just the basic organizational skills. If you're organized and good at business, you can just do the basic things well. And that does increase the standard of the industry. But I think I do more good in general by creating a lot of freedom in my life so that I can do good things.
That's fair. I get that. Because if you have if you truly 100% believe in what you're doing, you think it's the best thing that, everyone should have it, then you almost feel that like moral obligation. You have to grow this thing. Like if you knew that your business was getting customers 10 times better, painting outcomes or experiences than they would get from anyone else in the industry, you would feel that more obligation to scale as quickly as possible to get that message out to as many people.
Yeah, I mean, there's two parts to it. It's like, I feel there's an obligation. Painting creates a lot of freedom so that I can do a lot of things for free, actually, in my community. I do a lot of events in Squamish, in the forest and stuff, and all of it's just for free because I can.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's created through an asset like painting, which is just it's a fundamental service of our country. Like, I used to have a lot of judgment against a lot of this stuff when I was early in, like, my spiritual journey, I guess. But at the end of the day, like, our whole country is just houses and real estate, and we all want a house that with a roof over our head. These houses need to be maintained, and I feel very good about that. Like, I want to have a house with a roof on my head.
Yeah.
these houses, the best thing you can do is take care of them because they're freaking expensive to build. Painting is just a fundamental service. It's an essential service.
Yeah. You maintain the homes, be part of the economy, create jobs for people, create
Yeah,
incomes for other people.
straight up. You're servicing an essential need for our real estate market, which is or for our whole infrastructure of our country.
Yeah.
It's like
I
a
guess
multi-billion-dollar industry.
what I would challenge people to think about in their own businesses as a result of this conversation is how can you decouple your identity from being a painter to becoming a business owner and looking at your painting company as a vehicle to generate retained earnings, to generate income rather than a vehicle to paint homes.
Yeah, I would say that's accurate. It's both, right? Like I don't identify as a painter, but like it's an asset. It's like buying any like you can own stock in construction companies.
Yeah,
Those
well, you identify as an entrepreneur.
I guess so, yeah. Part of my identity would be entrepreneurship, I suppose.
Yeah, part.
And yeah, yeah, I don't do a lot of people you work with um are they painters? They're like painters trying to step into the entrepreneurial hat. Is that a lot of
So
the
we have both, right? We definitely have the guys who come in as painters. Maybe they've hired a few other painters before. Maybe they're just getting started. Maybe they've scaled up to 3 or 4 crews. But most people, I would say 70-80% of our clients and listeners at one point or currently are actual painters.
right?
Yeah. And we do have the people who came from the student painting world, who came from, business world, who bought franchises and came in that route. A lot of the time they're different conversations, right? Because those people, when a problem shows up in their business, they can't run to the brush and save the day.
Right.
So they need to think with people. They need to think with systems. But the painter who's been, just hired his first 3 painters and now they're starting to do some production and there's a problem on site, they go save the day. And it's counterproductive.
Okay, well, I mean, for anyone that's listening that is coming from that painting world, to give some context that's useful, I literally was a house painter for I think 3 years. I ran a crew. Like I was the job site manager, and I had a crew of usually 2, so it would be me and 2 others. And I was pretty young, but I loved it. Like I loved crushing the budgets. We used to get a budget productivity system. If you beat the budget, you get a bonus based on the productivity. And I prided myself on being the best painter for for those few years.
Yeah.
So I did have that persona, and I would solve the problems 10 years ago by going and I'd fix it. But I guess the identity slowly transitioned. Now I'm just, especially once I actually started hiring professional painters, like I can't actually do it. I'm not a professional painter.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I'm like a very amateur. I can move fast. That's one of the things even now, but I'm good with ladders and I can move fast, but I'm not a professional painter. Like I can't do the job that I recruit for, that I sell.
Yeah.
So I actually can't solve it anymore.
And there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you have the ability within your organization to solve that problem, there's nothing wrong with it, with selling a project like that you can't personally do.
And the nice thing about painting industry is that there are professional painters all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even you actually don't even really need to do much of training because they're already professional painters. They just need to be recruited with a good recruiting system.
Yep. Yeah.
They've been doing it 20 years, 30 years.
They just don't have the systems, or they don't know how to get their own work, or they don't know how to talk to customers, or they don't have paperwork. They don't have any of that, professional painter, is.
And they don't want to do any of it.
Yeah, they don't want to. Yeah, not everyone wants to do that. That's totally fine.
That's fine.
It's not for everybody.
That's called a win-win.
Yeah, exactly. Being a business owner, being an entrepreneur is not for everyone. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? But it's not easy. And I think, 10% of people want to be entrepreneurs or have the entrepreneurial drive.
Only 10%?
I think it's 10%. Maybe it's 10%. I think I saw a stat. There was like 300 or 3 million small businesses in the United States. So I think I just extrapolated that. That's 10% of the population are small business owners. But it'd probably be a little bit higher than that because not everyone is like an adult who can have a small business.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe it is closer to like 20%, which is pretty high. It's pretty solid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was talking to a client today actually on a call, on a group call, and he has tons of work coming in, but he's just solo right now. He's ran crews before with another company, but now he's just solo on his own, and he can't get out of the rat race. He's just producing, and he can't hire. He feels like he doesn't have enough money to hire somebody, even though he's booked out for 6 weeks and painting 8 hours a day. What type of
Okay.
advice would you give to him?
Well, he's if he doesn't have money, it's either just in his head or he isn't pricing correct. He hasn't actually he doesn't have a system for his pricing that works it out properly. So your pricing or your estimate system, prices that all in. So your estimate system has to price in a professional painter to take care of the job.
What's your hourly charge rate, Brad?
Right now, I'd say it's probably 90 to 95.
Yeah, that's
And
healthy.
I'd say that a professional painter is going to require $35 an hour.
Yeah,
$30 to $35 an hour, which puts you at about a 38% labor price.
yeah, that's right in the pocket.
Yeah. And then that's it. Then you got another 10% for paint, putting your gross profit at 50%.
Yeah. So gross profit should be 50%. So step number one, look at your margin, see if you're making, I mean, with being the only painter, the gross margin you should get that 38%. So your gross margin to be like 85%, right? If you're painting.
If you're painting, then yeah, your gross margin is now 87%.
Yeah. So 87% gross margin, which is great, which
Or
means
88.
yeah, which means there should be cash left over.
Yeah, so it's a mindset thing. It's just I think what discount painters will come in, right? One thing is that like there's not that many of them because they don't survive over a long time. But people that come in and underbid you with pricing that you can't compete with, it's because they are basically cutting out their company's profit. So they pay themselves like the labor wage, that
Yep.
38%, let's say, and then they cut out the company's profit. So the company doesn't earn anything. So
They
if
make
you're
their 25, $30 an hour and that's it.
or even if it's $40 an hour, at the end of the day, though, like if you're the CEO of your own business, you would would fire yourself because now your company is not earning any money because of the decisions you're making.
Mm-hmm. I totally get how frustrating it would be to compete against those people. If you're not set up with systems and you're not presenting yourself as a professional painting contractor and you're providing a price that a professional painting contractor is charging, so you're charging like say you are, say $80 to $90 an hour charge rate,
Yeah.
and you're not doing it professionally and you're bidding against people with a owner operator mentality, $40 to $50 an hour charge rate, you're going to lose that bid 10 times out of 10.
If Who's going to lose the bid? The guy that's more expensive?
The guy that's more expensive if you're not presenting yourself professionally.
Yeah, you have to match, your professionalism has to match the price, and you will lose some of them, but those guys that are underbidding also don't have a marketing budget generally. No one knows who they are. It's pretty easy to test this stuff if you're in a marketplace. We say go door to door. I think one of the first things I did when I got to Squamish was I went door to door and I just asked, it was just market research. I just said, could you name the top 2 local painting companies? And literally nobody in the market knew anyone, zero. It's like they couldn't name one company that paints houses locally. And it didn't mean that there wasn't any companies because I look it up on Google. I'm like, there's painting companies here, but the homeowners don't know who they are. Why is that? It's because they don't have a marketing budget. They're not flyering. They don't have wrapped vehicles. They don't have cold callers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same
There's
with
no one's
Yeah.
front of mind, front and center.
So there's thousands of competitors, and yet there's no one competing. It's very strange.
Yeah. It is
Right?
it is a strange market. Like in the United States, the top company, the biggest company in the whole country in painting has, I think, a 3% market share. I think that's
There you go.
CertaPro.
Wow. Yeah, it's not that much.
It's fragmented.
It's very fragmented, and that was the entire market opportunity when we started Shackshine, the house detailing company. There's thousands of people that have a power washer, and homeowners couldn't name one, not even one.
Yeah.
So who's the local power washing company? It's Shackshine. That's the only one they know.
Yeah. And they'll call them anytime something goes wrong. It was like back to the Brian Scudamore days of 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Who's going to clear junk? Like you go on Craigslist, go on Kijiji, you can find someone, or you can call 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and a professional person is going to come to your door with a professional looking truck.
Yeah, and to give context, I guess, for the audience watching, the company that bought Shackshine, which is the company I started and invested in, was 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And their whole
the parent company of 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
The parent company of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which is called O2E. And
O2E,
O2E
yeah.
stands for ordinary to exceptional. They take ordinary services and make the experience and brand exceptional.
Do they also do Wow One Day?
They do, yeah.
Yeah, really cool spins on just like basic industries. And of course, everyone here will have an opinion on Wow One Day, but
I haven't
regardless
heard the
of that,
feedback lately. What do you think of them?
regardless of, so that doesn't matter what I think of them, but what does matter is that everyone knows who they are and everyone thinks of them.
Everyone does think of them. I think they do like 30 or 40 million a year at least.
Right? They're big. And even if you don't like the business model, if you think that, there needs to be a proper dry times and recoat times and all this stuff, they're crushing it. And if they weren't crushing it, if they weren't providing great customer results, they wouldn't be in business anymore. So, you got to poo-poo on the haters, kind of.
100%. I agree. It's they've done something interesting, something cool.
Ultimately, the market will decide your value. And if you aren't providing value over long term and you just have a really great sales and marketing engine, well, that's going to fizzle out pretty quick as soon as you let your foot off the gas. But if you do have something great and you can provide a great product, great customer experience, people remember you, you'll eventually be able to let off on the sales and marketing machine and it will continue to grow.
Well, I don't think you ever should let off on that marketing machine, but you're right. Yeah, it slowly transitions to like a little bit higher word of mouth, and you can track all this stuff year to year using a good CRM.
Yeah.
Right at the end of the year, you can look at your CRM to see where each lead came from or which booked job came from, and you can just divide out the math to figure out your ROI on each marketing channel. And obviously, word of mouth is free, right? Like,
yeah,
you do it's in the operations, it's built in.
Yeah, I actually have a client who does that, who tracks the cost per lead from every source, how many leads they get from every source, how many estimates, their closing rate from each source, their lead to estimate ratio from every source, and their average job size from every source, as well as return on investment. And once you have your numbers, once you know your data and know the metrics, making decisions becomes so much easier.
Way easier. Yeah. I don't think you should track all of those things because there's too many KPIs. There's too many things, but if you can have a system that automatically does that all for you, then that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's kind of it needs to be fairly automatic, at least from your perspective, or if you have like an assistant who does it for you. Like a system doesn't have to be automated. It can be just someone else doing something for you consistently.
Yeah, and I think everyone should know the basics of how to do those calculations because they're not that hard. You can do it once every 6 months. You don't have to do it all the time, but like however much work you booked from one source and then divide it by how much you spent on that source. It'll give you the exact percentage of marketing for that to buy that business.
So what's the next big decision in your life? You're kind of alluding to it a bit earlier. Do you scale the painting business? Do you just go full on? I mean, you're going on a 2 week or 2 month?
I'll be gone probably for 2 or 3 months.
Okay, no return ticket booked yet?
No.
Okay, so you're going for a quarter to a third of a year. Or is 2 or 3 or 3 or 4?
Sorry? I really don't know yet.
Okay, so a little while. You're going for a little while.
I'm going for a little while, and I don't have any initiatives that have to get built for Colorcraft for this. Like, there's nothing that urgently needs to get built. It's just an operating business at this point, and so that kind of frees me up. Is my job of building is not unless I make up another initiative, which would probably be like launching franchises. That's a huge initiative, but I haven't made that decision yet. So I don't have a job. Which is
have you read? You probably haven't. Have you read Elon's new biography?
Oh no, I wish. Did you?
Yeah, I listened to it in like a week. It's really great.
Oh
But
man.
I think one of the things that Like it's funny the difference. Like when he hits a certain level in his business and like everything is smooth sailing for a little bit and calm, he creates chaos. Like everything was smooth for him this one time, and he got to like his starship that one night at like 2 a.m, and there was only 2 people working there, and he's like, "What the hell's going on? Like we need to get this thing into orbit. Like I want 200 people here tomorrow." And he just like causes chaos, right? Everything's good in his life. Then he buys Twitter, right? So
Interesting. He's aware of this pattern.
he's aware of this pattern. He says he's addicted to chaos. He cannot relish in his successes. He needs to go to the next thing. He looks at it like a video game. He always needs to hit the next level, right?
So, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to interject, I guess, with apart that pattern, that chaos, the need for chaos. So I would say I have that in part. Like not having goals, I learned this about myself. When I didn't have goals, it actually made me anxious. So there's people in the world who suck at taking action and getting shit done. So their life challenge is actually that they need to learn how to set a goal and then execute. That's a life challenge. Some people, like Elon Musk or myself, to a way lesser degree, I don't struggle with setting and hitting a goal. What I actually struggle with is being peaceful and content. So when I don't have goals, I actually get anxious. And I actually started to look at that pattern within myself. And that's more of a personal journey, is why can't I be content in my life? Why have I always have to have something that I'm reaching for outside myself? And that's a big part of a theme of my own spiritual journey, was starting to really dig into this and like learn about this this disharmony within myself. So when you say that about Elon Musk,
I call that the entrepreneur's curse. I've talked about it a lot, and I define that as the constant state of disappointment with yourself and your business, regardless of how well it's doing.
but then you don't have choice. That's the issue with it, is if you don't actually start to look at that pattern within yourself and learn how to bring harmony to it, you don't actually have choice. And I want to have choice in my life. I want to build things because I want to, because I love it, not because I have to, because of an insecurity within myself that I'm not enough. And honestly, a lot of what I've created in my life has come from an insecurity that I need to do more. I've got to perform. And if I stop performing, I'm not enough. And that takes deep reflection. And that's why I do things like go to Nepal and like go walk around for some months to look at myself.
Yeah, I like how you called it. You're going to go for a big walk.
I'm going for a very big walk.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think that's a excellent spot to wrap up today, man. We didn't even get into like a quarter of what I wanted to talk about, but I thought that was a pretty good discussion.
What were the things we wanted to talk about?
Well, I think no. At the start, we talked about. I wanted to hear more about like your spiritual and your psychedelic journey and how that's impacted your business decisions. But let's save that for another episode so we can dedicate a full hour to that, because I want to get into it. And I think if we do that when you get back from Nepal, I think you're gonna have a whole bunch of new things to share as well.
Yeah, if I could say one thing about that, I think psychedelics and plant medicines and stuff has taught me to make space for myself to reflect on the nature of my life and the nature of creation, so that I can make better decisions in business and act from a place of love and not scarcity. Make sure that I'm making decisions out of true passion and love, not just scarcity and not being enough. And that's something I learned from plant medicines.
Yeah, and I think that once you make that shift, you'll not only be happier in business, but you'll run a better business too, because you'll care about what you're doing more.
You'll be happier. If you're happier, it's better for your employees, it's better for your customers, it's better for everyone.
Yeah. Well, even though you're heading off, let's do a 30-second plug. You're not really selling anything, but like, how can people learn more about what you're doing in the world of spirituality?
You can go check out foundations.com. It's foundations spelled with a Z at the end.com.
Okay.
And
that's a Z for you Americans.
Yeah, foundations and the Z at a Z instead of an S.
Okay.
And there's offerings on there. I do some business coaching, personal coaching, and then Colorcraft is the franchise painting business. Well,
Awesome.
early stage, but it's my painting company.
Awesome. So if you're in Kelowna or Western Canada or Seattle, hit Brad up.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It's been nice coming on the show, man.
Yeah. Thanks for coming and enjoy your big walk. And are you going to be at the thing next weekend? Am I going to see you?
I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to make it yet, but I might be there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully see you in person for the first time in a few years.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad.
See you later, buddy.
Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.